Newsfirst Newsline with Faraz Shaukatali.
And a jolly good morning to you. This is Newsline, live as always from the Newsfirst studios in Dawson Street in Colombo. And this morning we start off with some somber news, and that's the sad and untimely demise of our group director and former General Secretary of the United National Party, Mr. Senrat Kapukotwa, who passed away a few days ago. Today is the funeral, and it is actually an absolutely sad day for all of us, and for me and for this program. Mr. Kapukotwa was quite a fan, and we shall, whilst we shall miss him, we shall remember him with great and grave fondness. And this morning, my guest this morning is Mr. Gomin Dasri, that well-known legal man, legal eagle. Very good morning to you, Mr. Dasri.
Good morning.
Lovely to see you.
Nice to be back with you.
Now then, you're here because once more the nation's conscience has been aroused, and this time it has been aroused by the seeming actions of a senior cabinet minister's family. Now then, the papers are full of it, and all the networks everywhere is full of it, and that is the damning evidence provided by a lady owner of a penthouse in a luxury block here in Kolpiti, and she revealed that the details that the rent was paid for by a company connected to the Perpetual Group, and Mr. Arjuna Aloysius, who came and inspected it and so on, and she said that the occupants of that premises was former finance minister, now foreign minister, Mr. Ravi Karunaka's family. Mr. Dasri, what's wrong in a friend paying the rent?
It's very wrong, because if the friend has a history and the friend's history relates to a ministry that you're presiding over, it becomes worse. But this question of family, then the minister has to take responsibility, because it's collective action of a family. The minister is totally responsible. He cannot alienate himself from it. Just as much as the Rajapaksa family has to take action for what Namal Rajapaksa says or any other family member says, Mahinda Rajapaksa has to take the responsibility for it. So just as much as that, for all actions of his family, Ravi Karunaka is directly responsible and answerable.
I see. Now then, what about if it was just, a friend in need is obviously a friend indeed. So perhaps the Karunakas were having a challenging time. They were, after all, they are rebuilding or refurbishing their family home. And so they may have been a bit short. So can't a friend step in and help?
When you're a minister, friends are going to be the most suspicious people, because friends are often beneficiaries. Now in this case, undoubtedly the emerging evidence is that Aloysius has been responsible for many benefits from various state organizations, which some are under Ravi Karunaka. Furthermore, just because your friend, then a minister must be responsible enough or not stupid. I think Ravi Karunaka's main problem is his absolute stupidity, because many ministers, smarter and cleverer, would have been able to work things much better and probably have reasonable explanations. But Ravi Karunaka has walked into it, walked not into a trap, he walked himself, walked the ground in putting himself in this position, because of the fact that if you are a minister, you have to be extra cautious. You're subject to public scrutiny, unlike you and I, who are just private citizens. Whatever action you do, you are held responsible, because you could be impliedly construed to be a beneficiary. So
it would be quite all right if you had paid my rent in a little room somewhere here, or even if it was in a penthouse or anything.
it wouldn't matter provided I do it not with the intention of getting to your program and getting publicity for myself.
Now there you are.
If I'm a beneficiary,
Yeah.
then it's a questionable deal. If you and I are just friends and I get no benefit from you, as I presently do, then I don't think there's anything wrong if I help you a little. But here is a minister they are dealing in billions, millions. And the perpetuaries are beneficiaries of a scam. And now, Mr. Faraz, I must tell you, all this credit is not due to that lady who gave evidence, but all the credit is to that commission. I think President Sirisena should be complimented in appointing 3 of the finest people for that commission. I rate Prasanna Jayawardene and Judge Chittasiri as some of the best, and I think I've been telling on this program.
And Mr. De Oliveira, we mustn't forget Mr. De Oliveira and his team.
The Attorney General's Department has done a good job, and I would give great credit to Yasanta Kodagoda. I know
as
him
well, indeed.
because I remember, did another inquiry when he was against me in the Special Presidential Commission in War Crimes. He is a fighter. He gets the best for his team.
He wanted Mr. Arjuna Mahendran's mobile phones and other communication devices. He said that it was imperative that it be handed over forthwith. And Mr. Mahendran was seated at the back there. He must have fell off his chair.
I mean, I think that Attorney General should be complimented. I often criticize him for not doing, but here when somebody does something, whatever criticism you must
be able to call a spade a spade.
You must compliment them. Here that AG's team is good, the AG has been very good, and the commission has been brilliant. And mind you, all that credit also reflects on the president. Now, I'm no supporter of the president, but I got to tell him that if he did not appoint a commission of this nature, we would have got nowhere. And I mean, there are judges and judges. I mean, but today, as I've been telling you, Supreme Court is very good, except probably the Chief Justice is not strong enough. But the day he retires, I think we will have an excellent Supreme Court. And I'm quite bold and prepared to say that we are very fortunate in having a set of judges who are independent, who are not forthright, who are courageous. And Chittasiri and Prasanna Jayawardene, they are outstanding men, material for future Chief Justices.
What about this retired former Deputy Auditor General?
He's very good. He's very good. I mean, who appointed? It's the President. The selection process has been good.
Right. Nadine, enough of all these accolades that you're dishing out.
Do you want me to go for the criticisms? Yes, I will.
No, I want to ask you this. What happens if Perpetual Treasuries and its owners, its ultimate owners, keep spending the monies by investing them all around? Do you think the Presidential Commission judges are aware of this? You know, that they're spending this money willy-nilly, newspapers, all sorts of jolly things.
But at the moment there is definite evidence that Mahendran had paid for a residence of a temporary nature from Mr. Kavi Karunayak. But the question of final payment has been from a different company, but that is quite enough. Why did
the final payment, sorry, but you're trying to beat me to it now. My next question is to do with that money that was dumped. That was the word that was used, dumped, in the chairman's safe. 145 million rupees was, according to the evidence of Mr. Brian Sinaya, who was described as the Chief Financial Officer. I dare say that he's now the former Chief Financial Officer. But anyway, of a company in which Mr. Karunak's family are on the board. All right? Now, and then he says that the minister's wife asked him to buy, to pay for this apartment, this penthouse that they were living in on rent, paid for by a Perpetual connected company, Walton Rowe, I think. Anyway, 145 million. Where did the money come from?
Not peanuts, startling, shocking. Well, that is where we could investigate. We could see whether Hastik has the money. How did he get the money? Who gave him the money? Look at his tax returns. Look at his declarations as a minister of his assets.
Now I'm told that the ordinary rules in terms of witnesses and so on, and statements made at this commission can't be used anywhere else. Is that true?
Well, I think, I'm not quite sure of the law, but I know that here evidence can be...
Not sure of the law?
Yes.
Goodness me!
I'm not sure of that part of the law, but I
okay.
must tell you that I know this much. Evidence that's why I've related it.
Yeah.
Matters that cannot be led in court, evidence of such nature can be led in at a commission. So that even if material that cannot be led in court, like a confession to a police officer, it could be led before a commission and they can determine the relevance of it, the value of it, the credibility of it, and then take it. That's why I said I don't know the law of this part of it, because it's so sprawling.
In my mind, you know everything.
No.
You are a walking encyclopedia.
No, Mr. Please,
you know, when you press the buttons, it all comes together.
Please.
Now I want to ask you this.
I want to say, that is knowledge of President's Council. I'm an ordinary counsel.
I think we'll save that for another discussion. Now then, can you tell me, where is the criminality in all this?
Criminality, I think it surfaces at every point if you do investigations. Now, if I was the lawyer for Mr. Karunayaka, I'm not.
Yeah.
If I would first...
Yeah, what would you say to him?
I would say make your declaration as quickly as possible. Don't avoid, don't delay, because that puts more...
What about matters of state? Is a cabinet... We are a cabinet minister. We are a cabinet minister. We must go to cabinet meetings. We are a cabinet minister. We must attend the National Security Council meeting. The standing orders, he complained to the Speaker. Is it true? Is it true that there's a breach of the standing orders?
Absolutely not. Standing orders are only procedural matters. I've looked at every one of the standing orders. There's nothing that he can take cover under. The question is simply, just because you're a minister does not exclude you from giving evidence that concerns you. Now, this is most damaging evidence I've ever heard in recent times against a minister. If I were he or his lawyer, I would have told him, go strike now and put your side of the story. For 1 week, don't keep the public in speculation saying you have to attend cabinet meetings. Cabinet meetings, I don't think every minister attends, because quite a number of ministers are abroad. Most of the time these cabinet meetings are held, or cabinet sittings, or parliamentary sittings. Parliament sittings are in the afternoon, the commission sits in the morning. And even if you want to go to Maldives, well, you can go to Maldives, but you can go and make a statement. So I think that, to me, that looks like avoidance, delay, and trying to get a benefit. And remember, this commission has short time. They just have 6 months more. And they have...
Maybe that's the whole idea, so that you drag it along and then they can't finish their work.
But that is bad legal advice. I'm sure he has a lawyer. His lawyer should have told him, if the case is bad, go and make your admission.
His lawyer is a full-time banker. But anyway, that's a different matter.
I don't know whoever it is. He's entitled to choose his lawyer. He selected him, and then if I were he, I will say, if he's wrong, go and make an admission and then get the best out of it. Don't delay, don't stay around, because the more you say, the more mud you are flung at you. Now today I read in the papers that Namal Rajapaksa is saying the government should take action, not so much against Ravi Karunanayake.
You know, with all due respect, I don't think that we need to have a scenario where, you know, it's the pot calling the kettle black.
No, but we need this because this government is investigating. Now,
it's a bit rich for these people who are under investigations themselves to come and make all sort of pronouncements. They should keep their mouth shut, firmly so.
And especially when they didn't investigate most things. I mean, when the ambassador at St. James in England was assaulted, was an investigation held?
Anyway, now what I want to say, everybody's asking the same question. So what? What is the role of the minister in charge of the subject of the central bank, for heaven's sake? Why isn't anyone talking about that? Why is it only Ravi?
Why is it also the central bank governor? I mean, all this time we were trying to show that, I mean, everybody is trying to show that this is a clean institution. It's only the commission who has been able to do that.
I think with all due respect, it was clean until the arrival of the last governor of the central bank.
I don't know. I wouldn't like to say, because it seems to have penetrated further. But obviously, a lot of hanky-panky has been taken, and I mean the Commission has already faulted many officers of the Central Bank. Central Bank was thought to be one of those clean places like the Attorney General's Department. It has, I mean, there are good times and bad times, and so I see it as a present, because now I am going to compliment the Aegis Department. I was very critical.
Yeah.
So that there are good spells, bad spells, and it's one of those spells.
No, Mr. Dasi, because we're halfway into this program. There's so many questions. One thing is about the size of this money that would be in the safe, you know, physically. We'll hope to bring you an artist's impression of that later on, in perhaps on our news, maybe even. You know, they need 28 bundles and all that. But look, here's the question. Question is this: if this was bought from overseas, this money was bought from overseas, as perhaps almost sort of inferred by the witness, Mr. Chinaya, because he says that the chairman, who lives abroad, dumped initially 70 million and then 75 million. Dumped. That's the word that gets me. Dumped. You don't just hardly any respect for this thing that you work all your life for money. Anyway, you know, 70 and 75 million was dumped in the chairman's safe, and because he lives abroad, there's some sort of inference, perhaps, that this has come from abroad. In that case, can anybody produce the customs declaration for such inward personal carriage?
Yes, of course. I mean, he has to explain how he brought the customs. He has to make a declaration on his own, and that's a requirement. That's not a requirement that has to be told to him. He must know it. Or else, if it came to a bank, there would be bank documentation. So
yes, because if it was a draft or a money transfer, the bank would normally keep the records for 6 years.
And I believe it has to come to Sierra accounts.
That's right. It needs to come to a special account.
So all those have been subverted, and this is where I think Ranil Wickremesinghe comes into play. Ranil Wickremesinghe is the president of the party of which Ravi Karunanayake is a member. Karunanayake, unlike Ravi and Mahinda, has been in so many parties. I think the first suspicion that I would have of a person in today's politics is those who have changed parties. Now those are not only ordinary people, but some very eminent people like Amulugama, GL Piris. They have been changing parties to their benefit. So I'm very doubtful, but I give credit to both Mahinda and Ranil. They have stuck to their party and they have reached the top. But now comes the issue. Ranil Wickremesinghe will, when after Ravi Karunanayake testifies, he has material on this whole issue. If he wants to get credibility as a clean and honest man, he is under suspicion now on the one scam, especially. He should hold immediate inquiry. He should ask for explanations. And then he should start investigations at the investigation stage, not now, because Ravi Karunanayake, we have heard only one side of the story.
Mr. Dasri, a thought has suddenly occurred to me. What would have happened if the money was brought in through the VIP lounge?
That is true.
Do you think that they could have got away with it?
They could get through, but those are matters that need investigation. I mean, you can't hang Ravi Karunanayake purely on statements. He has to be given an opportunity of explaining himself, and after explanation, there's a duty on the part of the President of the United National Party, Mr. Ranil Wickremesinghe, to investigate and not allow him to any longer continue to stay in office. You must suspend him or he must resign if a proper investigation is to take place, because with him as the Minister of Foreign Affairs, no investigation properly could be conducted, because he could subject the witnesses to some kind of conditioning. So therefore, if not, there's still another way. I think that is what will happen, and that is where Sirisena might emerge again. Sirisena can step in because he gets all the credit now. I'm no supporter of Sirisena. I have many criticisms against him, but when the due has to be given, it has to be given. And he has appointed a brilliant committee, and that committee is today, I think, what Sri Lanka can be proud of. We have people, we have eminent people, we have people who can investigate. We don't need foreign judges, we don't need foreign commissioners. We have people, and that has been proved by Chitrasiri, the gentleman from the Auditor General's Department, and Prasanna Chawla, the three brilliant men.
Do you think that this is a vile intrusion into the affairs of a private company?
It is certainly not. When a private company plays a public role, when they make money out of APF, out of various combinations of state organizations, and that matter is under investigation, there is no question of private intrusion, and if at all, it's very necessary intrusion, because I think the private sector has been getting away with a lot of things because they don't have the Bribery Commission Act, they don't have many where state officials are under check, they are able to float, and that flotation now has allows you.
Another question. Why should Ravi Karunaka resign when his party leader, Ranil Wickremesinghe, has not done for years, in spite of the various electoral defeats and the tweaking of the constitution of the party and so on and so forth, that he's under-delivered?
Well, fact that man loses an election is no reason whatsoever for him to resign.
Then why does he talk about Westminster-style politics?
Except that
he lectured Mrs. Bandanak on that.
Except that his party still wants him. If the party can...
You mean the majority of the working committee appointed by him wants him?
That is so. But then the party must be strong enough to get a new working committee. But I don't think a defeat at politics is a reason that one should resign. But if you have a conscience, if you are interested in the party, then you must resign. And in that respect, I must say that Mr. Wickremesinghe, last time when he was in 2015, when the UNP peaked, he gave way to Sirisena.
Because he knew he couldn't win.
He knew he could win, but still, if there could have been leaders like many others.
He knew he couldn't win in 2010 too, and he handed it over to General Fonseca to do it.
Correct. And in 2020, he won't be able to win, and in 2020, I doubt whether even...
He might be over the hill then.
Yes, so may be Mahinda Rajapaksa. Both may be over the hill. I think the correct man to put that 2020 will be Gotabaya Rajapaksa, but both will want to contest because...
But that's your view. Now listen, now we're digressing about this bond business. Tell me, how does he get out of it? Is it proper that a cabinet minister, we are a senior cabinet minister, remember, now, that's how he referred to himself as. I'm sorry, it's also irking me this morning. That's royalty, it's not some cabinet minister. All right, now listen.
That is not blue blood. And also certainly not a defense at all. It's a stupid defense. I mean, I always consider Ravi Karunaka not the brightest of the bright.
Now then, is it fit and proper that a cabinet minister, senior or otherwise, should appear in his position as cabinet minister before a commission where the evidence is absolutely damning? Every paper, Mr. Dayasri, every blessed paper has got everything to do with that. And surprisingly, the Daily News, that official sound bite, is carrying the coverage. The bond is exceptional. They is it fit and proper? Go on.
Well, my answer is, till he gives his explanation, it is necessary for him to come and give evidence, and it is all right if he has a reasonable explanation. Let's hear him out, and then decide that question whether he has the right to remain in the cabinet.
The best finance minister
just 1 minute, please. But best by whose opinion is that?
The Banker magazine.
These bank magazines, they call each bank. I was a director of bank, has a magazine for which they subscribe very heavily and get this kind of titling, kind of honor. So don't take these honors given by magazines at all seriously. But some give even as many as 20 and collect a whole lot of fortune. But that is a different matter, that's different. But
do you think that these ministers have been so busy engaging their family, businesses, etc., friends and so on, that they've been too busy to actually run the affairs of state? And is that possibly why we are now an IMF economy?
Well, I think ministers, when they become ministers, set up companies and become rich. Those days people came to politics and rich people and became poor. Now today paupers become millionaires. So that is the name.
Isn't it true that in Sri Lanka the people are rather myopic in nature? Yesterday's murderers and yesterday's underhand dealers are today's ministers and cabinet ministers and members of parliament, appointed MPs and so on and so forth.
You're quite true, correct, but that is, you've got to blame the public. Public have short memories.
But they only ever get to choose from one pot that contains all the same ingredients.
Precisely. I mean, that is why we need new leadership, young leadership, dynamic leadership. But what are we in 2020? We might have the same two who contested in 25, they gave a very good...
An interesting thing in the Daily Mirror, Finance Minister Mangala Samaravira has told former President Rajapaksa that there was no necessity for the latter's help to govern the country. In a Twitter interview, the former president said he was open for discussions with anyone, including President Sirisena, for the sake of the country. In response to this, the Minister Samaravira tweeted back saying, "No, thank you. Certainly not your advice on how to govern this country. Look at the mess you left for us to clean." But look at the mess that their own ministers are getting themselves into.
The mess is becoming a bigger mess, much larger in proportion. But I think what he doesn't realize is, I don't know what the reaction of President Sirisena is. He may want to talk. So that I think...
Look, as citizen of Sri Lanka, Govindasri, citizen of Sri Lanka, please tell me this. Is it time that President Sirisena dialed his foreign minister and said, "Ravi, I need you to resign. Should Mr. Karunaka go now?" Yes or no?
Yes, very simple. Let him give his evidence 1 week ahead. After that, President should take a decision that he should be either give Ravi first the right to resign. If he doesn't, sack him.
But only after he gives evidence.
Yes, because you must know both sides of the story. Because today we know one side, but if I was his lawyer, I would have sent him early. I would have not given him minimum 48 hours.
But then lawyers live on postponements.
Lawyers live on cases.
Yeah. On dates.
On cases and then dates on cases. So if I were his lawyer, I would have said to him, go quickly, don't keep the public waiting, don't put the country into a further mess.
But isn't it also true that circumstances alter cases like powder alters faces? And therefore, where is this delay? Because they are trying to change the circumstances.
Well, I think that's why the Commission was even prepared to sit on Saturday and Sunday. Because
that caught Mr. Asakuraratne off guard.
I don't know who the lawyer was, but certainly I would say that if the Commission went to the extreme of giving him time to come early and explain, because the longer he stays, the longer people have different kind of suspicions arising. So Ravi Karunaka, I think his lawyers or he has got wrong advice. Ravi Karunaka is always I think is always a stupid politician, because if he was even smarter, he wouldn't have got into all this trouble. To this extent, he could have...
He might say that this is not him, it's his family. Is that a good defense?
That is no defense whatsoever.
Even if it was a trust?
Even if it was trust or anything, if you live together, and then you cannot take up such defenses. I think many other MPs and even opposition MPs will try to take up the position that it's not we, it's the wives. That is no excuse whatsoever.
How much of integrity will our foreign minister wield when he is travelling about representing Sri Lanka, when it has been extensively reported that the foreign minister of Sri Lanka is subject to some investigation?
That is why I said that he should have come early, given his explanation and tendered his resignation while the investigation is going on. Well, if he comes out clean, well, they could. But remember, Ravi Karunaka, this is not the first time. Even before there was that Rajaratnam's inquiry. Yeah. There was suspicion. I don't know how that case is. That case is going to be...
Don't you see the nexus? We have his his family's chief financial officer being nominated onto the board of the Bank of Ceylon. He's in charge of various committees, including the risk committee. And then, the same bank has, within the space of a few minutes, handed over a facility to Perpetual Treasuries or to the Bank of Ceylon, where they're making a bid on behalf of Perpetual Treasuries and so on and so forth. Isn't this all a bit too much fishy?
Can I give you another revelation? That is, how did Ravi Karunaratne get himself exonerated or get himself acquitted in that case? Maybe worth looking at. Who was the judge? How quickly was the judgment given? How many witnesses were given? Was the witnesses properly trained? Who was the Attorney General's representative who led evidence? Has he led all the evidence? Now, if you get to that story, and if there's some journalist prepared to dig that, you will hit a treasure trove.
Right. Last and final statement from us is to say, this is why we keep telling you, think before you vote. The March the 12th declaration. It really is serious. Think before you vote. Because when you think before you vote, you will substantially reduce the possibility of these sort of matters happening. 145 million, 165 million, 100 million for 2 apartments, God knows how many millions for the refurbishment, and I can see parallels between that house in Malwana. But Govindasri, you're going to be on Face the Nation tonight, aren't you?
So they said, I don't know.
Right, so perhaps you might want to answer some more questions.
Just one answer could I give?
Please.
People should vote and not regret having voted, because people vote and then blame governments and then bring the former governments back into power and then blame them.
So we mustn't have voters' remorse.
Absolutely. Voters must be enlightened voters.
Govindasri, how wonderful to have you on Newsline. Thank you very much. And that's it from Newsline on Monday, July the 31st, 2017. Take care.